Here.
Lombardo,
Here.
Schooler,
Here.
Mayor Abel.
Here. We'll begin with our Pledge of Allegiance, and we will have presentations following that. So please join me for the pledge. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you for attending tonight here in the room or online. We'll start off with the Caltrans CR 62 Reconstruction Project report.
Mayor, if I might just ask for the report out of closed session, and then we can move into presentations.
All right. Do we have anything to report out of closed session?
Thank you. The Town Council met in closed session with respect to both items on the closed session agenda. There is no reportable action on either of the items, and that concludes the report.
All right. Thank you. And now we'll move on to our first presentation.
Okay. And I believe I am the first presentation for Caltrans District 8.
Yes, please.
My name is I am a public information officer for Caltrans. So I am here today to talk about the project that is happening on State Route 62. Let's see here. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. So can everyone see the screen?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, fantastic. All right. I'm also just going to stop my video so that I can make sure that we are good to go. Just in case we don't hit any video delays, that's why I'm going to just stop my video temporarily. Okay, so this is our project website. I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention that there is a project website, here for everyone to get information about this project. So I ask that everyone just hold questions until the end, and then we will go back and I will answer everything that I possibly can for you. Okay, so please save your questions till the very end. I promise I will keep this very quick and painless for you. So again, this is a mill and overlay project that is happening on the 62. So a little bit of information about this project and where it's located. We are basically going to be in many different areas at once. Okay, so the project, we have, some areas in Morongo Valley, we have areas in Yucca Valley, and even 29 Palms. This area right here between Joshua Tree, this is something that will be happening at a later time. It's not within the scope of work. So what exactly is happening? What exactly is a mill and overlay project? A mill and overlay project is very, very similar to a pavement rehabilitation project. Basically what we are doing is we are improving the existing asphalt pavement. We are replacing a lot of the asphalt dikes. We are reconstructing shoulders and bringing up curbs within the city limits to ADA standards, ADA compliant standards. We are also constructing a raised curb median on the 62 at Bolsa Avenue, as well as, let's see, we're also making a sidewalk at the 62 in Dryden. I do want to direct people to the website a lot. I don't want to sit here and just have you guys read everything. All of the information is here. I did share the website in the chat as well, so that you can go and view this whenever you like. We are also installing a couple of pedestrian hybrid beacon systems at Park Avenue and Tamarisk Avenue. We're at these intersections. The whole point of this project is to help strengthen the already existing pavement, lower the maintenance cost, and improve the riding efficiency, throughout the entire area. This is a $48 million project. 3.8 of it is actually SB1 funded. So, there's your gas tax money hard at work for you right there. This project is anticipated to last about 2 years. So we're looking right now at summer 2023 is when we are anticipating this to end. Right now, all of the work is scheduled Monday through Friday, but the work hours do vary. The contractor basically is going to be doing both night and day work. So they, depending on the operations that are needed, you know, we may have to do mostly day work, and then they'll try to switch to night operations as well. Traffic's going to be controlled by flagging. You know, the holds for this flagging, you know, could last up to about 30 minutes if needed. And usually that happens when we have heavy equipment going in and out of the area. Majority of the traffic holds last no longer than 15 minutes per side. But again, you know, if they really need it, they can hold traffic up to 30 minutes on each side. Let's see. I believe we have, and we do have we're going to be putting photos and whatnot. Right now, this is the current look of what the pavement actually looks like out there. So you can see just from these photos how desperately this project is actually needed. You know, not only is this pavement going to be absolutely beautiful, it's going to be a wonderful ride. You know, we are bringing the curbs up to ADA standards as well. So, you know, that is highly needed in this area as well. On the project website as well, we do have listed basically the work. I apologize. I did update this section right here for the next coming week, but it's just not reflecting. So next week work is actually up there. I think it takes about 24 hours for it to actually upload the new work. We will be in the Yucca area next week. It's mostly survey work. With some minor concrete cutting. What that means is the contractor is surveying and cutting into the concrete to mark it for areas that will receive either sidewalk improvements or ADA improvements. So that's what that is. It should be very minor for your area. Again, you know, this should be updated hopefully by tomorrow morning. It's just the website is not reflecting the proper information. I did push out that information earlier of what's occurring next week. So if you are on our email lists, great, you have already received that information. Another wonderful aspect of this website is we are able to have people subscribe and sign up to receive our alerts directly. So, you know, you can pass people this website, they can sign up for these alerts to receive information directly from me in terms of any road work that will occur, whether it be something very light or something very heavy. Let's see. So I will go ahead and open it up to any questions. I told you I would be pretty quick with this. I didn't want to take up too much of your time because I'm sure everyone has some questions. So feel free to shoot away.
Thank you very much. We'll open up to the public for any questions or comments. All right. Seeing none, any council members have any questions or comments?
Yes, I do.
All right. Very good.
Can you tell me, will there be detours that will help relieve this 15 to 30 minute wait that they're going to have when they close the highway itself? Will there be the ability to detour traffic around that area where it's closed for 30 minutes?
So there is one slight problem with that. The roads that are off of our highway system do not belong to Caltrans. So we really don't want to detour someone off of our highway because we become liable for that person. Oh. So if people are to detour themselves, there are many local streets that people can detour themselves around the construction. You know, they are welcome to do so. But, you know, there's only one highway out there. We can only legally detour people onto our highway system. Since there's no other connecting route, I can't provide a detour. You know, if the work becomes extensive, what I can do is I can inquire with our resident engineer to see if maybe we could provide a detour. We would obviously need to get city permits as well to place detour signs going down city streets. So this is an option we can always look into. I'm more than happy to ask that question to our team. But technically, no, we are not allowed to, and I hope that, you know, is understandable. I apologize that we really don't have another detour to give, but we can always take a second look at that.
It's just depending on the time of day. 15 to 30 minute block of the highway will produce enormous lines, and was wondering if it would be more prudent to divert the traffic before something like that happened. But I understand your explanation. Thank you.
No problem. And again, I'll check with our project team to see if maybe that is something we can do, especially when it starts to get a little bit more heavy in your guys' area. Right now, it's only the survey crews. They're only working on lane number 2 in the eastbound direction. I apologize, I don't have the exact city streets. I should print in front of me, but I don't. So it shouldn't be too heavy for next week. But when it starts to get heavier, that's something I'll bring to the attention of the team and see if there's something we can do in terms of a detour, especially during the peak travel times.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Emily. This is Councilmember Droz. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question about the email sign up for updates. Does that update you on everything going on in the state or only this project?
So if you sign up, the wonderful part about this is if you sign up using our website link directly from the website, you will only receive information about this project. We did recently switch to a new email system, so we are fine-tuning those lists, but this specific list will only be about the 62 mill and overlay project for this specific project.
Thank
So
you.
don't worry, we will not spam you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, this is Councilmember Dennison. Just one follow-up on that last question. I did see the image on the screen that showed where the site that we sign up, but I don't know the location of that. How can our residents easily find that sign-up location?
So you
what's
mean
the URL?
how to get to the website itself?
What's the URL to find that right there? Is it just on the homepage of Caltrans?
Unfortunately, because this website is not ADA compliant yet, I can't link it directly to our Caltrans main website. So right now, while it's undergoing the ADA remediation guidelines that it's required to, we are basically kind of just hosting this website outside of our Caltrans website. I am more than happy to send it via email. I did put it in the chat box as well. But an email works the best until we can finally connect it to our main Caltrans website. I apologize for that, but due to ADA regulations, I can't connect it to our main Caltrans website at this time.
Okay, I was just trying to clear it up a bit. I'm sorry, but I don't know what the chat box is, and I also don't know what web page I'm looking at right now. So if you could
no
somehow
problem.
maybe to the
If
town.
This is something that is a little difficult to find. I understand. If you would like, I can send you an email address or an email and directly send it to you.
Yeah, we'll have staff reach out and we'll try and get that out sent out. So thank you very much.
Okay, yes, I apologize for that. I know it's a bit of an inconvenience, but it will one day be connected to our Caltrans website. We're just trying to get it approved for ADA remediation.
Emily, this is Mayor Pro Tem Schooler. I just was wondering if there's some sort of outreach program to the businesses that are going to be affected as they are affected so that they aren't surprised when construction happens in front of their business?
Yes, I am trying to work with the Chamber of Commerce. If you guys have a contact or anything like that, so I can work with a lot of the local businesses. I plan to actually do a field visit tomorrow, meet with some of the businesses that will be affected for next week's work. It's about a 4.8 mile span, and just drop off my information so that they have it. Just for next week, because that will be the area that's affected. Let me get you actually the exact information as to. Give me one moment, please.
So while you're looking that up, I have a question for staff. Is that something we could put a link on our home webpage from the town, the Caltrans link, if they're wanting to get questions about the Highway 62 overlay?
Yeah, there's a number of things that we can do. We obviously want to be very cautious of making sure that there's differentiation between a town project and the state's project. But there's ways that we can link. For example, this can be a direct link, I would think, from our site directly to this site. So just with the flag on our spotlight on our homepage, click it and it will go right to this page.
Thank you.
And we would greatly appreciate that if we could hook it up that way. Just right now, our website is a mess for Caltrans, and we're trying to get everything else that we can out there. So any information that you can help post about, share. We are very active on social media as well. But I am trying to reach out to the businesses and stuff like that. So if you do have a Chamber of Commerce contact that I can work with, I would love to be able to provide information to these businesses so that they aren't completely caught off guard for the work that's coming.
All right, we'll make sure and do that.
The file that I'm trying to open is not opening. I apologize.
All right. Well, thank you for your presentation. I had one other question. With the project, are you going to have an electronic sign out there, like they have on the back of the trailer, saying expect delays and then the dates and the hours?
Yes. There should be CMS signs when the contractor is actually there. It will be all posted, to anticipate delays, flagging ahead, and everything. It should be there. I believe the working window for the Yucca Valley area is, I believe it's 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.
All right. Well, first of all, a lot of people already know about it because we're very excited and long overdue, as you mentioned. And so the word's been getting out on our local media, which they've done a great job with our newspaper and our radio station. So they'll, I'm sure, continue to give updates and let people know, as well as us providing a link perhaps on our homepage. So thank you so very much. And we really appreciate Caltrans coming out and doing this project for us. And thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you so much for letting me present about this project. I truly appreciate it, and any help you guys can provide, I would greatly appreciate.
Thank you again.
Mayor, just a couple of
Have a wonderful night.
final comments. It didn't come out in the presentation today, but the schedule that Caltrans has identified takes into consideration traffic flows, the type of time of day of traffic patterns, and that provides information for the contractor as far as determining what their construction window is in different places within the construction project. So, for example, it takes into consideration traffic flows eastbound, westbound at certain times of day. So it's not like they just set up shop whenever they want. So that's part of their analysis for when those windows are open. And then obviously town staff will stay in contact and communicate if there are issues that we're seeing that Caltrans is not aware of, that we would certainly raise that with them at the appropriate time. And we'll tag team and make sure that this information is out on our social media platforms with a link to the state's information to get it out to as many people as possible.
Very good. And if you could give us back the home screen or share screen, we'll be able to continue our meeting. So thank you again for attending.
Yes, thank you again for inviting me. I truly appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful evening.
You as well. Come out and visit us sometime. We'll move on to our next presentation. Assistant Chief Tuttle from San Bernardino Fire will be presenting next. Thank you for being here, Assistant Chief.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, Mayor and Council. I'm here happily to present a quarterly report from the Fire District. So I'll start with some call stats. For the first quarter of this year, we ran a total of 913 calls. And those are just calls in Yucca Valley town limits. That doesn't include the areas on the mesa that are outside the town limits and other areas that we respond to just adjacent to the town. Of those 913 calls, 744 were medical aids. So that's about 81% of our call volume is medical, which is pretty standard for this station. Just for a little historic context, last year, 2020, this same quarter, we ran 956 calls, and about the same percentage were medical aid. And then in 2019, we had 1,016 calls for the first quarter. So our call volume has actually gone down over the last 3 years. Some of it is just random. I mean, the call volume goes up and down and fluctuates on a regular basis. But it does seem like since COVID, the call volume has decreased. So that's that for the stats. And I have more stats here if anybody has any questions on specifics, but that's generally where we're at. Our fires, all types of fires, including vegetation fires, structure fires, car fires, 29 total fires. Most of those are small, easily handled. The big ones, you either see them up on the hill or you read about them in the paper or hear them on the radio station. So nothing really too alarming about any of those numbers. Next, I'm going to just give a quick fire district update. So I think I mentioned this before, but our fire permit process is now online. So anybody that has brush, tree trimmings, weeds that they're clearing out of their yard, they need to burn them. Burning is still open right now for a little bit longer. So you no longer have to go to the fire station to get a burn permit. You can do it online. You can get to that link on our website at sbcfire.org, and there's a link on the homepage for fire permits. Speaking of fire permits, the weather is getting warmer, so now is a good time to remind people to start thinking about that defensible space around their house. Keep the vegetation clear, prune up those trees, get rid of any dead vegetation, and just do some basic yard maintenance. That's the best thing you can do to protect your house from a wildfire. And then also, because wildfire season is right around the corner, our crews are doing their wildland refresher training right now. So every year, all of our suppression crews go through, I think it's 22 hours of annual refresher training. So they're going to get out there in the hills and pull hose and practice just doing general brush firefighting skills. We also work with our cooperators like CAL FIRE, BLM, and the Park Service, and we all get out there and train together so that when we get the fire and we're working together, we have that relationship. And that's about it for the first quarter in the fire district. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, well, we appreciate you being here. Any questions from the public online or here in the room? All right. Council member questions. I know what it is, but go ahead and push the button so we all hear.
Making any progress on the fire station?
You phrased it differently. I thought you were going to ask me when it was coming. I was going to say not soon enough.
Okay.
I work every day on it, but there's no plan. We're still trying to secure
No
funding.
major breakthrough yet.
No major breakthroughs, no.
Okay.
No. But it is still the top of my priority
Got
list.
it. Thank you.
Thank you for asking the question we're all thinking.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Even the firefighters ask me that every day.
Oh, good, good.
I'll bet they do.
Now we got to get your wife to ask you that same question. Put pressure on in all areas. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem?
Chief, the online permit process, does that apply to like fire pits for home fire pits and like
No,
that?
I should clear that up too, because there's been a recent change in the fire code. Last year, when we updated our fire code, you no longer have to have a permit for a campfire. So if you have a campfire in your backyard, you don't have to get a permit, you don't have to call them or call our dispatch center. But a campfire is a typical campfire. We're talking 3 feet diameter, ringed with some kind of brick or rocks, burning just firewood, like your typical what you would think of as firewood, a tree limb that's cut down to size. No trash, no construction waste, no lumber, nothing that's been processed at all. It has to be an area that's cleared of any vegetation. It has to be 25 feet away from any vegetation, a structure. There has to be a garden hose or a shovel on site, and a responsible adult. So if, people are welcome to have campfires in their backyard, we just remind people to be safe about it and be smart. One of the other restrictions is if there's a red flag warning or if the winds are over 10 miles an hour, you can't have a campfire. But outside those restrictions, you can have a campfire in your backyard. The other recommendation I always make is invest in a gas fireplace or a fire pit. Natural gas or propane, whatever you have at your house. They're much safer. They don't put off embers, easier to control the flame, and they're generally a lot safer than burning wood. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yes, go ahead.
One more question to tag on to that. For a natural fire in a pit, is a spark arrestor required?
It's not, no. It's recommended. It is a good idea, yeah, but it's not required.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, Chief Tuttle, I just wanted to say I appreciate the crews. I hear the sirens all the time, and we're very fortunate to have a fire station right in our downtown area of Yucca Valley. So thanks to all your crews. Let them know that I really appreciate it, and the council appreciates the service that we get, as far as public safety. One thing I was wondering, you had mentioned a while back, as far as our hazardous waste disposal there that's in Joshua Tree.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about what the status of that is and how it's working right now for hours, now that it's reopened?
Yeah, thank you. I forgot about that. I was going to mention that we're partnering with the town this weekend to have a household collection waste facility or event here at the community center. So Saturday the 24th from 9 to 1, people can bring their household hazardous waste here. The other facility that you were talking about in Joshua Tree, typically it was open one Saturday. I think it was the third Saturday of the month. They closed last fall for construction, and so to make up for their closure, they're doing twice a month now. So it's the first and the third Saturdays in Joshua Tree, right next to the Caltrans yard, from 9 to 1. So this month, people in the Morongo Basin have 3 opportunities to get rid of their household hazardous waste. And that's oil, antifreeze, batteries, medications, sharps, things of that nature.
Electronic.
Paint, electronics, batteries, electronics.
Yeah, it's a great service that your crews provide over there, and so thank you for having that available to us so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good timing too with spring cleaning and so forth. So hopefully people will take advantage of that. And thank you for your report tonight. We really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Move on to our third presentation. That's our President Johnson from the Morongo Basin ARC presentation now.
Mayor and council members, just real quick, I just wanted to do a brief introduction to
Sure.
Astrid Johnson. She sits on a committee that I participate on behalf of the town, and she's going to give us a description of the services that she provides or that she works with. So Astrid?
President Johnson, thank you for coming. And you can adjust that mic down if you need.
I'm going to breathe here.
There you go.
I'd like to, I'm Astrid Johnson. I'm the president of Morongo Basin Arch, and I'm going to give you a brief history of Arch and our homes that we offer, as well as the programs that we have. So Arch began in 2008 with Wayne Hamilton, who founded it with other people, and it was kind of like the beginning of what Haven was. It was formed as a network and a way to start addressing the homeless situation in the area. And then when Haven formed, Arch kind of like fell apart and got a new board came in 2017 and kind of revitalized it, got it back on track. And it was in 2017 that we founded our first house, which was for women in September. It's called a transitional house. And we have 6 women in 29 Palms. Then in December of 2017, we had our men's house. These are both rentals, and we have like 6 people in each home. The people that are in the homes, for the most part, generally are coming from Yucca Valley. They come from the Crisis Walk-In Center, they come from CRT, probation recommends people, or they're simply off the street. Tina with Homeless 101 will recommend people as well. We have, in 2019, we were awarded a grant from the county called HEAP, and we're able to purchase a duplex in Joshua Tree to house homeless families with children. So we wanted to kind of complete the picture of who we were housing. We were housing single women, we were housing single men, and then we have the duplex for housing families with children. We have now, a year ago, last year, we were awarded a 5-year contract from the county for talking about fire stations. We have the fire station that's across from the college in Joshua Tree on Sierra. And I know that had been vacant for quite a while. So we have it for 5 years, and that is our home base. We have a lot of donations that come in, clothing donations, furniture donations. So the bay is, instead of having a fire truck, that's what's in there now, is clothing, a lot of furniture, as well as our street outreach. So Tina works with us as well, Tina Homeless 101. So we have the toiletry items that we use in the area, sleeping bags, as well as food. food for the homeless and food for families in hotels. So that brings us into the programs that we offer. So in 2019, when I got the duplex, we also were subcontracted with Don Smith, who had a very large contract from the county for eviction, emergency sheltering, and rapid rehousing. And so Arch took over, we received monthly funding to address those issues. Wayne Hamilton also had funding as well from the HEAP grant. And so he was doing families with children, and we were doing individuals, couples, or families that had very young children that weren't in school. Like they were like toddlers, toddler age. So what we were offering was eviction prevention, emergency sheltering, especially last year with COVID. We were looking for cases that had cancer, for example, or AIDS. One gentleman had a pacemaker and they were homeless. So we were targeting people that were at high risk or 65 and older. That was the population we were also really looking for. So they were being housed in the motels, mainly in 29 Palms, where they were familiar with our programs. Although we did use a motel here in Yucca Valley as well. The other programs that we have is food programs, where we have High Desert Healthcare District funds for emergency, to buy emergency food, either for the homeless or for people that are in motels. So when somebody is in a motel, like for a couple of weeks with us as an emergency shelter, sometimes they need food as well. So we'll go out to Stater Brothers and buy them food. So that's, I'm going to lose my program here. Here it goes. The other program on food is, you might be familiar with Farm to Family. You're probably familiar with the Farm to Family program. It started in the summer and was boxes of food coming from, I believe, Ventura County all the way to Joshua Tree. And then all of the pantries around the area, from here in Yucca, Joshua Tree, 29, churches, everybody signed up for this food. It's a huge refrigerated truck, huge. And Arch signed up as well, and so we started delivering boxes every Thursday morning. We started off in Joshua Tree giving boxes to probation, and then we went towards 29 Palms. We knew there were people going out to Landers, people in Yucca Valley that were bringing these boxes, and it was a hiatus for a couple of months. It's just resumed again, and in the beginning of April, I think we've already had two Thursdays where we're delivering boxes, and then tomorrow, on Thursday, sorry, today's Tuesday. On Thursday, we're going to be doing it as well. So that is another source of food. And I always tell people the biggest problem up here is not food. There is so much food coming into the area. Nobody should be hungry here. The biggest problem we have is housing people, especially permanent housing. And I attended a meeting online today, and I know there's a lot more money coming in. I hope you will avail yourselves of reaching out to the funds that are coming to the cities to start to develop low-cost housing, truly low-cost housing. And the last thing I wanted to mention is the outreach. I know I applied for Measure Y, and Measure Y, the application was for toiletry. So what we do, too, is we partner with TINA, and we also help out Santa Fe Social Club, who's often asking for toiletry as well. So we buy the items necessary for the toiletry bags and pass those out weekly or monthly or whatever the need is. As well as we have food, as I said, from High Desert Healthcare District that we can pass out. So that completes my presentation. I know I tried to go quickly and not to take up your time, but do you have any questions about what Arch is? We're a nonprofit, we're a 501c3.
Yes, thank you. We'll open it to the public first. Anybody in the public would like to make a comment or question? Have a question? All right, seeing none. Yeah, that was my question. Obviously, you're a 501c3 or whatever. The partnerships, I was looking at your website, so anybody interested in getting more information or just even making a donation,
Yes.
looked quite easy to do online on your website. So whoever developed your website did a fantastic job.
It was me.
Oh, wonderful. I'm very
Go
impressed.
Daddy, go Daddy.
Well, you did a wonderful job, and the partnerships that you've developed with your group has been phenomenal. So,
And I appreciate yours too. You were recognized
yes.
at the bottom, yeah.
And I thank you that you also mentioned that although some of your facilities, your facilities are out of the town limits, they are serving people from the town of Yucca Valley.
Probably the majority.
Majority of people.
Majority of people, because you've got the CRT in Joshua Tree, but it's all Valley Star. And so they're well aware of us, of our houses. And our houses are priced lower. We're the lowest price. And we're less restrictive.
And it is emergency sheltering. It's not long-term.
We do emergency sheltering, and we do what's called transitional, which is short-term sheltering. And then we have the HEAP funds. The HEAP funds terminated, and we've applied for what's called HAP grant, and we received that grant. It's a very large grant to replace HEAP. So we have money coming in to continue with, that we're going to share with Wayne Hamilton. So Wayne Hamilton and I, we're partnering, and we're going to be able to continue the eviction prevention, as well as emergency sheltering in motels, and what's called rapid rehousing, which is our effort to assist somebody maybe with a deposit or pay their first month's rent. We can help them with utility bills. If they're trying to move into a place without a refrigerator, and it's required, of course, to have a refrigerator, we can do that as well. So we're hoping that the funds will come in, but you're familiar with how the county works. It takes a while. So, I'm very, very grateful that we've been very fortunate in getting that funding.
Well, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
A couple questions?
What are some of the stumbling blocks towards long-term, low-cost housing that you see?
Oh, that's a huge question, and that was actually addressed at a meeting I attended today. So the biggest, like I said, food is not our issue, right? And I was going to mention, too, that you all probably familiar now with ERAP. You know what I'm talking about with ERAP? ERAP? Okay, so the federal government, through the state of California, has two funding sources through the state of California and now the county. And United Way is processing the county program to help people with arrears due to COVID in their rent.
Yeah.
They can go back all the way to March 2020. And so, on the website I've posted, I'm going to put up the update because we're waiting for an MOU for the county, and then we can assist people with that as well. Wayne Hamilton and I can do that. And so eviction prevention is our primary, to prevent people from even losing their homes, right? But a lot of homes are being lost anyhow because people couldn't wait for this to happen, I guess. And so people are just simply, the house is being sold out from under them. And so we've got people that have been in a rental for a long time, they don't have the funds, and now the price of going into the next rental has dramatically increased.
Yeah.
It's getting harder and harder to rent here. So what I've been told is that now we're sending people out of the area, like to Needles or Blythe or anywhere else where they can finally find housing. Oh. We have a huge problem here. So again, like in this meeting I attended, it was an HPN meeting, is the state of California is well aware of this problem, and they're going to be sending a lot of funds out to try to do some building, truly low-cost housing, because the people we're talking about are people on fixed income or people that are on SSI. A lot of the people I'm dealing with are on SSI or on a very low income, like a little over $1,000, and they can't work, they're too old. So the senior population is really being hit hard with homelessness. It's one of the largest, I think, Deborah, right? One of the largest growing populations is the seniors. So that's what I'm addressing. Your issue is to look for housing. There's Project Home Key coming up again. It's going to be funded again, I understand, this summer. And I had tried, we weren't in 29. We had a place in mind, but the awards went to two big projects in San Bernardino County and then one up in Big Bear. So they're going to do it again. They're going to be another round. So if you do have any facilities that you think would lend itself to something like Project Home Key, you could let me know or let Deborah know, and, we can partner. It's a partnership with a city or a partnership with the county. And you're partnering with them, you're going to help manage it, but the city actually owns the property. Project Home Key.
Project Home Key, it converts unused municipal buildings into living space?
Yes, it can be. It can be an old hotel. Sometimes they're converting hotels into apartments and to studios, the quickest way they can. Or something that maybe was like a senior home, retirement home of some sort, and they can convert those. So they're looking for something, not just like a house that you're going to turn into, but more of something that would house maybe 8 to 10 people or more.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Did I cover it all, Deborah? Okay. Thank you very much.
We have another couple questions.
Okay, sure.
I just have one quick question. You were talking about some of the facilities you have, a men's house, women's house, the new family duplex that you mentioned.
The duplex for
Kind
families.
of, with all the things that you have happening, what would you say is kind of the percentage maybe of those that need assistance that is getting that help? What's the demand? How much
Oh, huge
capacity
demand. I have a waiting
are you
list.
looking at?
I have a waiting list for the men's house already. I can only
But I'm
house
just trying to
6
get an idea so people understand really the wave of need.
Okay.
Because I don't know what the comparison is right now.
Okay. So the women's house has 6 people in it. The men's house has 6.
Right.
And I've got at least 2 or 3 people on a waiting list. I have probably a waiting list for the duplex. If somebody leaves, if somebody can go right in immediately. So, and then I'm getting calls constantly. So we have this gap for funding. I hope you understand that now. So the HEAP funding that Wayne and I were using for rapid rehousing is gone. That funding ended. We've used all of our funds, so we have this gap right now, this hiatus, and we're waiting for the HAP funding to kick in, which maybe next week, I don't know. When it finally comes in, we can resume. So in the meantime, I don't know, about every day I'm getting calls. And all I can do is say call 211, maybe call Pathways, see if we can get something. I try to think of other nonprofits like Salvation Army to refer them to. It was like a woman who's pregnant and she is on the street. So we're trying to figure out where she can go. So it's every day there's a call. Every day there's somebody who they're either being put out, they know they're going to lose their housing, they don't know where to go, or something has happened. So there is a huge need. There's a huge need for this funding to come through for emergency sheltering, because then we put them in a motel. But the next step after that is rapid rehousing, and we've got to find, that's where the problem is, addressing, where are they going to go? Because there isn't enough low-cost housing for them to get into. And then something to keep in mind, too, if somebody, like I have a gentleman who I'm assisting right now, he came from Yucca Valley, and he is a senior, and he probably has no credit. Because if you've been homeless for a long time, your credit score is at 0. I have quite a few that their scores are at 0. So there's real estate agents that won't even look at them because their score is at 0. And it's kind of like a catch-22. If you've been on the street a long time, you don't have any reoccurring payments, your score is at 0. You've lost your credit. So there's a lot of things that occur that create these barriers. You want to add?
Any other
Did I catch it, Deborah?
No, I was just going to. Just because we know the acronyms, but just in case, the HEAP funding was buckets from the federal government.
Yes.
And so that's what has ended. The HAP funding was recently in the last year and a half from the state.
And it's just starting, the money's just starting to.
So there's a process with which the county will apply for those funds, and then within the county, different providers apply through the county. So the process does take a little bit of time, unfortunately. That's just the way that it is. And so right now, like Astrid is emphasizing, there's a huge gap between the ending of the HEAP and waiting
Beginning
for
of HAP.
Yeah. So
And
I
we
just
have-
wanted to make that clear.
And Deborah and I are on the steering committee for this area. It's called East Valley Steering Committee. I hope you're familiar with that. We meet once a month on the third Thursday of the month at 10 p.m. It's a Zoom meeting. Everybody's welcome to attend and find out what is going on because we get updates from ICH, which is Interagency Council on Homelessness, and all the other different meetings. And then we hear about the grants coming through. So if somebody's going to jump on a grant application, we know it's coming, we can do that.
All right. And I think we have one other council member has a question.
Sure.
Yeah, just quickly, Astrid, I know you've been at this for quite a while, and I admire your dedication to this, and Wayne Hamilton as well, and Deborah and all those people. Just wanted to know, how big is Arch? How many people do you have helping you do all of this?
About 3.
3. But you do work with all the other agencies.
Oh, you do, we do.
close, yeah.
I always say we're small but mighty, and we have a major impact in this area.
Well, you do,
What
and you're
we do.
filling a huge
We're all
need.
volunteer.
Real quick.
All right. Well, thank you for what
Is
you
your
do.
agency involved in the program? I believe it's through the state, but it might be federal government, where they're taking residents that are paying rent that are behind on their rent, and they're helping the
That's ERAP.
landlord get 70% and forgiving 20 or 80% and 20?
80%. There's two programs out there. There's a state program and a county program. I'm going to try to put some of this on the website, but there was an article in the paper that tried to explain it too. Okay, so the state program is at 80%, and it's a year in arrears. They will help with utilities. And the criteria, there's a certain criteria of average medium income, AMI, and that's at 80% as well. So you can be higher, but you get less money. The county is going to be by United Way. They're going to pay 100%, but they have a lower threshold of acceptance. It's at 50%. The AMI is at 50%. So the actual income level, it was on that article, there was also an email that was sent out through Haven, but we could forward it on to you if you want to see it as well. And it broke down, exactly in a chart what we were talking about on these thresholds. So when somebody goes to the website, they immediately screen them on their income level, and if their income level is too high, they're not going to be applicable. All right, so one's at 50 and one's at 80%, and the loss has to be COVID related. So people are on unemployment, they have to have all that documentation to prove they've lost their jobs and then cannot pay their rent. The state program will also pay ahead, I think, a couple of months. So, you have to kind of choose which one best fits the needs.
All right, thank you.
Does that answer your question,
It
Ron?
does, thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
That's called ERAP. Deborah knows about it too, right? Yeah.
We appreciate all your hard work and coming and spending the time with us to educate us and also inspire us. So thank you.
Okay. If anybody has any questions, you can always call me. And my phone number is on, our website is morongobasinarch.org. And if you scroll down, you'll see my phone number and my email address. It's just out there.
Thank you.
Dedication.
More than welcome to reach out and ask me any questions.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our presentations tonight. In introductions, we'll go ahead and move to approval of the agenda. May I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll move.
Second?
We have a motion and Mayor Pro Tem second. Roll call?
Councilmember Dennison,
Yes?
Rhodes,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Abel.
Yes. Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are routine matters or formal documents covering previous town council instructions. Items are enacted by one motion and a second without separate discussion unless a member of the town council or town staff requests dialogue on a specific item at the beginning of the meeting. Requests for public comments on the consent agenda items should be filed with the town clerk. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone asking to speak on tonight's consent agenda?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Anyone online or here in the public? Very good. We'll move on to the approval, or excuse me, anybody else want to pull an item or have discussion? I would like, go ahead. I have a question and something item to
I was
pull.
going to make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Okay. I have a question. Well, first, I'd like to pull item number 9. And then my other question was item number 10. It stated in the report that my question is, what level of desired expertise or experience is the staff looking for? So we rejected the bid, so don't know what the criteria is that we're sort of looking for.
Mayor, if you prefer, you could just pull both of those items. We can talk about them after you do the rest of the consent agenda.
All right. So do we have a motion to approve consent agenda items 4 through 12? Oh, 12, yes.
I'll make that
Pulling
motion.
9 and 10.
For 9 and 10?
And pulling items 9 and
9
10.
and 10 for.
Okay, so Dennison has made the motion,
I'll second.
and Lombardo with the second.
Councilmember Dennison,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
Mayor Abel.
Yes. My question on item 9, before staff gives me a report, is we were talking about design changes that might be happening with the project down there, such as closing off the street. Wondered if that was going to affect the bidding process for pedestrian improvements.
So the recommended action before the council this evening is for award of the design contract. If there are, and if staff understands the question correctly, if there are design issues that surface between Proposition 68 design and the Little League improvements, we would address those through both of those projects. Some requests may require Caltrans approval for Little League, some may not. So those have to work themselves through during the design process. We can't project what those issues, all of those issues may be, and we have to address them when they rise at those times.
So do we delay awarding the contract until we
No,
get-
sir. No, sir. We have time limits on both projects, and we will depend upon the design engineers to address any needs as we move forward through those designs.
All right, perfect. And item 10, unless there's any other questions on that?
Item 10 is a recommendation to reject the bids that were received for Proposition 68 Project Management Services and authorize staff to go back out to bid. Town received, and correct me if I'm wrong, Armando, 5 bids for those services. Staff did not find any significant level of recent aquatic center or gymnasium construction experience in any of those applicants. You can't see the document that I'm looking at right now, but we have been reaching out directly for approximately 4 days, full-time staff allocated reaching out to multiple design engineer architectural firms. We have a number approaching between 7 and 9 right now of highly experienced firms that are interested in project management services. So we are going, staff is going to be continuing to reach out throughout the bidding process to make sure that when we come back before the council, we have a pool of qualified individuals of which to consider.
That's wonderful news. Thank you. Any other questions on items 9 or 10?
I move that we approve items 9 and 10.
And I'll second.
Councilmember Dennison,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Abel.
Yes. Thank you. We'll move on to department reports, item 13.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The item before you this evening is the introduction of an ordinance following council guidance from your meeting on March 16th, where Town Council reviewed Town Council member compensation and directed staff to bring an ordinance back to the council to change the municipal code. I'd like to read the title of the ordinance into the record and then just a couple of the whereases as a reminder for why this is moving forward. This is ordinance number 292, an ordinance of the Town of Yucca Valley amending sections 2.05.010 of the Town Municipal Code to set certain compensation levels for council members. And remembering that whereas the Town Council believes it is in the best interest of the town to avoid spikes in Town Council compensation at future dates, whereas the Town Council desires to promote compensation levels that will encourage the widest possible pool of candidates and eliminate as many barriers to service as possible. And whereas reasonable council member compensation acknowledges the civic commitment of service and provides an additional incentive for as diverse candidate pool as possible. And then finally, you'll recollect that this ordinance, while it is being introduced and becomes operative this year, will not be effective until after your next municipal election. So this won't become effective until January of 2023. Completes the staff report. Mayor, be happy to answer questions after public comment.
We'll move to public comments. All right, seeing and hearing none. The recommendation has been placed. We need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion for approval.
I will second.
Council members Dennison,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
Mayor Abel.
Yes. Item 14.
Thank you, Mayor. Revenue Measure Oversight Commission appointment and some resignations. So we recently met with the Revenue Measure Oversight Commission, had their annual meeting. They approve a budget recommendation that you'll see before you in your special revenue funds at your next council meeting. As part of that, we identified that there is a number of the terms that have been fully met for their original appointment term, and so it was appropriate to reach out and see if there was interest in continuing that service or allowing someone else to participate. Through that process, we identified that there were four commissioners that had their terms expiring in 2021. Two of the individuals have identified their desire to continue. That's Ms. Lori Herbell and Mr. George Huntington. And then two of them, Mr. Paul Hoffman and Ms. Joanne Kiter, have identified that they are no longer interested in continuing that service, although Mr. Hoffman indicated that if you're unsuccessful in your recruitment efforts, he would be happy to step up if needed. So this is just reappointing both Ms. Herbell and Mr. Huntington and then accepting the resignations. In your town staff report, I'd just note that the recommendation is just going to be slightly different. Number one is going to be correct as stated, reappoint Ms. Herbell effective 4/4/21 as a Revenue Measure Oversight Commissioner for a 4-year term ending 4/4/25. Number two is correct, reappoint Mr. Huntington effective 4/4 as a Commissioner for a 4-year term ending 4/4/25. We would ask that you add number three to reappoint Mr. Paul Hoffman effective 4/4/21 as a Revenue Measure Oversight Commissioner for a 4-year term ending 4/4/25, and then to accept the resignation of Mr. Hoffman effective 4/13/21 and Ms. Kiter effective 4/4/21. Concludes staff report. Be happy to answer other questions after public comment, Mayor.
All right, we'll move to public comment. Seeing and hearing none, we'll bring it back. My understanding is Ms. Kiter, I appreciate her services, is going to be moving out of the area, so we wish her well on that move, and please extend our gratitude to her as well. And Mr. Hoffman has volunteered for everything and anything through the years, and I understand that he would appreciate perhaps taking a rest from this, so hopefully we can go out and recruit and find someone. And that's a commission of 4 members?
There's a total of 7
Okay.
on the commission, yes.
Okay. So just 2 that we're removing, and then the recommendation is the leadership roles on that.
The leadership roles, I believe, are established within the commission.
Oh, okay, so it's just reappointment
Yes,
of
it's
those
reappointment,
terms that have gone
yes.
out. Okay.
And then for the 2 vacancies, we would advertise them according to the Maddie Act. We'll bring back those applicants to the council for consideration at the time that we feel that there's a sufficient pool for the council to consider.
All right, and my remembrance was it wasn't district-wide, it was just town-wide, so.
That's correct. For the appointment of the commissioners, although the council, I think, in the initial establishment of the commission, tried to get as much representation for the entire community as possible.
All right, very good. Any other council questions?
Just want to comment, thank you to all the commissioners for their diligence, and it's really been a benefit to the community to properly use those Measure Y and Z funds.
Yes, thank
We
you
need
for
people
that.
to have that dedication.
And just so the council knows, as we would normally do when we have commissioners that have served and they leave, we'll prepare for them the appropriate recognition and allow the council to recognize them at a future meeting.
Wonderful.
Okay.
All right, I move that we move forward with the staff recommendations. There are 2 reappointments, Ms. Lori Herbell, Mr. George Huntington, and accept the resignations, Mr. Hoffman and Ms. Kiter.
Second?
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Dennison,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Abel.
Yes, thank you. Item 15, capital projects update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. We have a presentation for the capital projects update. The recommendation, excuse me, is that the town council receives and file a capital projects update. The first project that we have is the Little League Drive pedestrian improvements. The projects will construct improvements such as sidewalk on the south side of Little League, handicap ramps, a bike route, signs, and addition of crosswalks for pedestrian crossing. Also, the cul-de-sacs, 450 feet from Palm Avenue, is going to be in the design. The project is in the design phase. It was awarded to KOA Corporation on April 2021. This project is funded with the ATP program. Is grant funded with the state funds, and during the application time, the project cost was estimated in $778,000. Staff did an estimated project cost as of 2021, and the project will be around $1.1 million. So ATP funding will be $622,000, and the estimated town funding is $1,400. The next project that we have as a capital project is Onaga Pedestrian Trail, also ATP grant funding. Project was estimated in 2016 of $971,000. Another update estimate, that project will be around $1.6 million. So the funding from ATP cycle will be $777,000 and $886,000 from estimated for the town. The project will also construct sidewalks, curb and gutter, handicap ramps, and driveway approaches on the north side of Onaga, and the project was awarded on March 16, 2021 to KOA Corporation. Another project is the town local roadway safety plan. This safety plan will provide the framework for the town to identify, analyze, and prioritize roadway safety improvements. It was awarded to Advantech Consulting Engineers in April 2021. The funding is an HSIP fund, state funding, and for $72,000, and local funds were allocated in the fiscal year 2021 for $8,000. The award study cost is less than $70,000. So this local road safety plan is going to be completed by October 2022. Then we have Proposition 68, the Aquatic and Recreation Center. The design and construction of an aquatic and recreation center at the corner of Little League Drive and Palm Avenue. The project is in the environmental phase. The CEQA documents will be completed in May 2021. Project manager services, we are staff still looking, and we released the RFP on April 2021. The design, we expect to start the design by the end of the fiscal year 2021, or unless have awarded to an architectural and engineering firm by 2021 or beginning of 21-22, and then completed by 22-23, and construction to start in 22-23 and to be completed by the maturity of the grant, the Proposition 68 on fiscal year 23-24, and the project funding is $20 million. The next project is North Park Parking Lot, Restroom and Trail. This is the construction of a new parking lot with access from Fairway Drive, a new restroom facility, and a trail for North Park that will allow foot traffic via the new trail to the existing North Park trailhead. The project is in the design phase. It was awarded to Engineering Resources of Southern California on April 2021. We are expecting to start the design on fiscal year 2021 and the construction to be bid and started and completed by fiscal year 21-22. The project funding is the CDBG funds, Community Development Block Grant funds, and the total funding that the town has for this project is $247,000. The next project that we have is the Senior Center kitchen improvements. These projects include repairs and upgrades to the kitchen at the Senior Center for the food program to provide food in safe and sanitary manner and to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The project funding is the special revenue from the special fund from CDBG COVID-19 1 and COVID 3. The total funding that we have for that project is $190,000. The maturity of the grant is April 30, 2022, and the upgrades include AC, walk-in freezer and walk-in refrigerator, kitchen oven replacement, and some flooring replacement and patching walls and miscellaneous permits, plans, and preparation. So staff estimated the expenditures as of December of 2020 in $116,000, but in this pre-post-COVID situation, these prices or these costs are really, companies are changing the cost of every 15 days. So we are expecting a contingency there of 25% cost increase. So we expect that this project will have an estimated cost of $145,000, and the remaining balance of the CDBG fund will be $44,000. The next project is the community center, Yucca room kitchen improvements. Again, it was considered within the CDBG CV funding, $190,000. The remaining balance is $44,000, and staff is evaluating different upgrades if we are going to install a commercial versus standard kitchens according with the funding sources available. The next project is a town hall consolidation project. This is the redesign of the former library to provide for additional space to different town activities. The project's phasing, the town completed the needs assessment on March 2021, and probably in May, staff will come for town council authorization for the architectural and engineering design and construction and bid documents. The project funding is, at this moment, is funded by the Capital Project Reserve Funds, and there was fiscal year 2021 allocation of $150, and the fund balance, we spent $17,000, so the fund balance is $143,000. Again, the recommendation is that the town council receives and file the capital projects update. That concludes my report, and I will be happy to answer any question you may have.
We'll open it up to public comments, questions. All right, we're consistent tonight. No public comments right now. Could you go back to one slide on that last project? When was the completion date guesstimated on that one? Okay.
The guesstimated on that, we know that we are going to come for council authorization for architectural design in May 2021.
So typically your design process is going to be around for at least the project as we envision it right now. Your design is somewhere between 9 and 12 months, 6, 9, 12 months. Your construction is going to be 12 months plus a couple, probably. The 142,800 remaining balance, that will not pay for the design. Your design is going to exceed that amount, and that's something the council will address once the design contract is before you, as well as then when you're looking at what those construction costs are going to be. So staff hasn't penciled it out exactly, but a year and a half to 2 years for completion would be a rough estimate as we sit here today. Keep in mind a couple things. COVID-19, as all of you are aware, has created shortages in certain areas, whether it's the chips that are used in automobile manufacturing to many other components. The lead time on ordering special equipment now may have gone from what used to be a 30-day period to a 6-month period. Some things you don't know when it's going to arrive because they can't provide you with a date. So I just mentioned that because there will be some IT equipment that goes into this project, special electronics, special components. COVID is having a significant impact on those issues, and that's projected to go on for some time. So hopefully that at least provided a broad answer of what we're looking at in an overall timeline.
Yes, thank you. On the one slide, we saw that community development block grant funds may not be all used. So the remaining amounts of money, does that come back to us to reallocate?
So there is some desire to make some improvements to the Yucca Room kitchen. That funding is not sufficient to classify it and meet the requirements of what's necessary for a commercial kitchen. So staff is going through the dialogue of once the senior center kitchen is fully laid out and known costs through bidding processes or purchase processes. I think there's ongoing dialogue at the staff level on what to do with those remaining dollars. At this point, I believe the town council has allocated those funds to the two kitchen projects, both the senior center as well as the Yucca Room.
Okay, very good. Armando, would you make sure and email me the PowerPoint presentation tonight?
Yes, of course.
Appreciate it. Yeah. All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
On the senior center kitchen project, is there any possibility that we could include soundproofing over there, or is that just too far outside the scope? In that senior center room, that's always a problem. The sound bouncing off the windows and walls.
That wouldn't be part of this project because the grant funding is relatively specific, but that's such a small maintenance issue that shouldn't be a problem to take care of, at least some mitigation. It's not going to solve everything, but that's, yes.
Okay. And then on the North Park, is North Park still on patent from BLM land? That's 80 acres on patent. And do they need to be, are they in the loop on this project, or do they need to know?
As I recall, there were conversations, and the general reflection that came back to the town was, have fun, make it a nice project.
Yeah. That's what I recall. They didn't really want it back or anything, but.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Councilmember Lombardo.
I heard on the North Park project that there's an existing trail with some benches and some landmark things that exist. Will any funds be expended to improve the trails or connect to other trails and revitalize the benches and the monuments?
So in the first phase, as defined in the item that you saw this evening, be construction, hoping for construction of the parking lot, restroom, and a trailhead which connects to existing trails within the facility. There would need to be additional funding and efforts to move beyond that with rehabilitation or replacement of benches and those types of things, which the town approaches many projects on a phased multi-year approach. So that's very typical and very common.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that reminds me, I was just in Utah on a hiking trail, and one of the trails, the local school, elementary school, did a project where the students did a drawing or a painting of a particular native plant, and then submitted it and so forth, and then it became part of the display as identifying plants along the trail.
That's
So I thought that was a
wonderful.
really great way to incorporate our local students into
Get them
nature
excited.
and art and get excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, being outside and doing that. That's a great idea. Remember that.
Any other questions on these projects? All right, well,
I
thank you.
move we approve.
All right. So it's a receive and file on this one? Correct? Yes. All right, so we receive and file today's report, and we thank you for that. And we'll move on to our last department meeting item, number 16, general draft, fund budget review.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be reviewing the proposed budget for fiscal year 21-22. All right, so as with prior years, the budget is formed around the strategic plan that is based on the community's input and council's review. The strategic plan was approved in March 2020 for the 2-year period through 2022. Due to the unknowns of COVID-19 and its fiscal impacts, the town adopted a 1-year budget for fiscal year 2021. It is staff's intention to revert the town back to a 2-year budget cycle with the 2022-2024 fiscal years. After today's review and direction received from the council, staff will plan to provide the special revenue fund budget on May 4th, and then the fiscal year 2022 budget adoption on May 18th. So the basis of the budget is to provide the financial aspects to successfully execute the council's strategic plan. With that effectively in place for guidance, staff's second goal is to prepare a balanced budget without the use of reserves. So this familiar graphic just serves as a reminder that this draft review today is to inform the council of the expected budget impacts and options in fiscal year 2022. Once the budget is adopted, the cycle will be continuously reviewed over the upcoming year, with results monitored and adjustments made as necessary. So here's the general fund summary, which is also included in your agenda packet. The 2022 budget is proposed as balanced with no use of reserves. The total excess of revenue over expenditures is budgeted at $5,000. I will review in detail the assumptions used to frame this budget and the changes to budgeted expenditures to accommodate those assumptions. The general fund revenues are estimated at a total of $13.8 million. This is a $1.19 million increase from the prior year revenues and is based on current year revenue trends and projected increases from the town's primary revenue sources. Other revenue sources were adjusted based on changes to the programs and services expected in 2022. Overall, the assumptions did not include any funding from federal or state governments, such as the American Rescue Plan, which have funding guidelines that are still being developed at this time. Sales tax accounts for 28% of the fiscal year 2022 budgeted revenues. You can see from the trends tracked here that the shutdowns resulting from COVID-19 took a deep but relatively short revenue impact. Fiscal year 2021 has reported significant growth at a very fast rate, which is that really high peak at the end there. Our projections take a conservative approach and assume a return to a more regular growth rate and more closely align with prior year trends. Transient occupancy taxes are the other major revenue source that have reported significant increases in 2021. With increased tourism to the area and growth of the short-term vacation rental market, the transient occupancy taxes are expected to grow at a rate relative to the current year trends through 2022. Property taxes account for 40% of the 2021 budget and fortunately remain relatively unchanged in this upcoming budget cycle. As you can see here, property tax revenues have steadily increased over the past 10 years, and this rate of growth is expected to continue through the next fiscal year. Other non-major revenue sources have been adjusted according to expectations next year. Interest revenues are estimated at an $80,000 total for fiscal year 2022. Franchise fee revenues remain a significant revenue source and are expected to remain at current year levels. Administrative revenues are expected to have modest increases in the upcoming year as the county has moved forward into the less restrictive tiers. Two revenue sources that I'd like to note with projected decreases in 2022 include community services and community development revenues. both of which are based on service fees and charges. Community services year-to-date trends are lower than budgeted expectations and may continue as we work on the ability to have public gatherings and programs. Community development revenues have increased steadily over the past 2 years, but are expected to slow down in the upcoming year. Total general fund expenditures are proposed at $13.7 million. Firstly, these expenditures realize a reinstatement of the pre-COVID levels for contract services, materials, and supplies for the town, which were decreased by 10 to 15% in fiscal year 2021 across all departments. As town revenues are reporting stable in the current year and through upcoming projections, each expenditure category sees a relative increase to accommodate the next fiscal year's programs and service levels. Overall, town spending has grown moderately in accordance with the growth in revenues. As you can see, this growth reversed in 2021 for public safety, which was due to the additional costs being paid from the Measure Y fund due to COVID-19. Programs and services include the costs for professional services, material, and supplies provided by the town. The overall increase of 15% again includes that reinstatement of pre-COVID services. In addition, this increase accommodates items such as new facility maintenance costs for Tri-Valley Little League, estimated utility rate increases, and ongoing costs related to COVID-19 that may not end up being reimbursable through federal or county programs or state. Personnel service costs are projected at a total of $5 million for fiscal year 2022. 4 major areas of change that affect the increases in the expenditure category include the reinstatement of the 1% supplemental pension contribution, the addition of 2 part-time skilled maintenance workers for the Parks Department, the addition of 2 full-time planning technicians to assist the planning department, and the potential implementation of the town's class and compensation study and the annual cost of living adjustment. Total public safety costs are proposed at $4.9 million. The estimated 2021 Schedule A safety contract totals $5.8 million and includes a 3% increase in the maintenance of existing services. The Measure Y funding is estimated to be able to accommodate $1 million of the Schedule A contract, with the remainder being allocated to the general fund. Measure Y will again fund the 2 Measure Y positions and a 50% contribution to the maintenance of existing services. In total, the public safety contract costs have steadily increased with an average rate of growth at 6%. At the full general fund allocation, the 2021 Schedule A contract annual costs would total 42% of general fund revenues. The total effect on fund balance of the fiscal year 2022 budget equals a net change of $50,000 with a total unassigned reserve of $7.9 million. This equals 57% of operating expenditures, which is above the current reserve policy requirements of 50 to 55%. If unchanged, this would leave 7% of unassigned reserves available to allocate toward future needs. In prior years, with the consistent growth of revenues and conservative spending, the reserve balances at year-end have reported well above the reserve range policy. This has resulted in allocations being made to the other reserve funds, such as the Pension Stabilization Reserve and the Capital Projects Reserve. These funds remain unallocated in the current proposed budget. The 5-year projection is presented here for long-term planning and discussion. This projection estimates a stabilization of the current revenue trends with only moderate increases year to year. On the other hand, inflation and cost of services would indicate the expenditure increases will continue through the projection period as they are this year. While town reserves can remain stable at these rates, there would be a projected deficit in the general fund of revenues to expenditures if there were no changes to these projections or policies. Moving forward, after today's review and input from the council, staff will return with the special revenue fund budget for review. And then once final changes have been made according to these reviews, the budget adoption will be scheduled for May 18th. So in summary, staff's recommendation will be to receive and file this proposed budget for fiscal year 21-22 and for council to provide comments and direction to be incorporated into the proposed budget. I'd be happy to answer any questions after public comment.
Thank you. We'll open up to public comments. Seeing and hearing none, we'll bring it back to the staff, or excuse me, back to the council. Any council comments or questions? No? Go ahead.
Trying to formulate my question. The proposed budget increase that we've experienced, or the increases in revenues that we've experienced in the transit occupancy taxes has been a good thing. You're saying that you're expecting the future years, the costs to rise and not meet. Let's see, we go back a few steps there. There we go. This is a 5-year projection. Operating budget is not going to meet, is going to exceed our revenue source in the years to come. Is that?
So when you look at this current year, you see revenues growing exponentially really quickly, and expenditures kind of meeting that pace. You would assume at some point, especially with transient occupancy tax, that growth rate would decrease to a more moderate level, especially with something like housing. Eventually, they'll run out of short-term vacation rentals to buy and make.
It'll balance out.
Exactly. With this projection here with my rates, I decrease the growth of the revenues because, again, they're growing really quickly, and be really hopeful to think that they stay that way. Not impossible. However, when you look at the rate of cost of living, inflation, those are expected to stay at those higher rates. So I just want to make sure that depiction was clear that costs are going up, revenues may slow down. And so that would be direction for council.
In the future, we'll need to make a decision also about any increases in transit occupancy tax that might help offset this. That would be one of the things that we could do. But
That's a very disturbing slide right there. Yeah.
yeah, I'm seeing
Yeah, I'd
scary
just,
things in the future.
if I can.
I think we're going to have to start laying off people at something.
We put this on here for a couple of reasons. One, to illustrate that you do have increases in expenditures. Expenditures are generally a little bit more predictable sometimes in your revenue sources. But if you go back to your first or second slide, Jordan, there's clear policy direction from the town council every time that we develop a budget for you, and that's brought back before you. It has a couple of underlying guidance, and two things here that we've identified. One is implement the council's approved strategic plan. Secondly is to create a balanced budget without the use of reserves. So that's starting point number one. So we would never bring back, you can go back to that last slide, we'd never bring back to you a budget that's a deficit budget without solutions, right? So the picture we're trying to paint is that money doesn't fall from the sky forever. And we're in a unique position right now that all of your drivers of revenue at the same time are increasing. I've been here since 2005, and we've never seen revenue. I've never seen revenue increasing at the rate that it's increasing currently.
I agree.
We don't anticipate that to continue. But your expenditure trends generally go along at a pretty predictable pace. And so that's really the only purpose of that slide, is to illustrate that things can change, things will change. We would come back and receive policy direction at the appropriate time. And then let's go back to, there's about 2 slides ahead of that one, Jordan, is your year-end results on fund balance. So let me give you the counter to that horribly negative slide that we had on there. And this is probably a very optimistic slide that's probably more realistic of what ends up happening and what ends up being brought to the town council. So your policy range for starting in year, we have 19 actual. So you had your standard reserve policy range, your current policy range. We were at 69%. All right, same thing in 20 was 67%. 21, the amended budget is saying 64. We're projecting for the current year to be somewhere around 94%. So what ends up happening is typically because of the way that we budget and the way that we expend, your end results are typically more positive. And what that just provides you, if you go to either the slide above this or behind this with the balance of fund balance. So it results in your fund balance summary there of unassigned reserves of just under $8 million. These are fun, and then this doesn't include your current year. It does not include potential money that you're going to get from the American Recovery Act, which is in the millions of dollars. We don't know exactly what that number is. All of that, as you think through the presentation that you received earlier from Armando on capital projects that we have moving forward, whether it's our Prop 68 project and some of the supplemental funding you may need for that, depending on what desired improvements the council wants there. Other projects that we've identified that additional town funding is going to be needed to complete the projects. All of this gives you that flexibility to get there. So I think in summary, the budget picture is exceedingly positive. We just wouldn't want to paint that picture artificially for an indefinite period of time. So sorry for the long-winded explanation.
We needed one, yeah.
All right, thank you. I was a little nervous about expenditure cycle there, but I got it all figured out now. Thank you.
Can you go back to the projection for next year again? That there's a bar graph right there. It goes from 93 down to 57. That's the projection, or the blue bar?
So 94% is the projection for fiscal year 2021. So as with prior years, we would take that 94% over to council for allocation to either the capital project reserve fund or pension stabilization reserves. And then 57% would be for fiscal year 2022 of unassigned reserve balance.
Okay, so it's not a decrease in generated revenue. It's a decrease because of our projects that we're spending money on.
Yeah, again, you'll allocate that from that 94% to reserves at some point.
All right, that makes it very clear. Thank you. All right, so it's receive and file and review alternatives and provide related input and direction. Is there any input or direction besides receive and file?
Let's continue to be cautious.
Yeah. All right, so we'll receive and file, and thank you for your presentation. All right, we'll move on to future agenda items. Yes, go right ahead.
I would like to have some kind of an update on the town's interactions with the airport district and ways that we might partner in the future to improve the situation with the airport. Maybe I just don't know enough about how the town and the airport district interact, so I'd kind of like to have a little history on that, and maybe a presentation from the airport district on things that we can partner on to make a more safe and secure and more prosperous airport district.
Or if it's in our
interest
duty
to be involved at all.
Yes, right.
Well, I don't understand how they interact, and I would like to know more about it, because I think the airport is a great asset to the town of Yucca Valley and to the community, and I think that it needs to be integrated into, at least looked at and see how the two interact.
Anyone else willing to have that on the future agenda item?
I have one thing.
Yeah.
Sometime in the future, I would love to see some discussion about the other entrance to Yucca Valley, Old Woman Springs Road, all the trash on the road. Maybe we could partner with Caltrans and Burtech and get some kind of cleanup there, because that's a major entrance to town also, and there's a lot of trash along that road.
Any interest in that item being on the future agenda? Or is it things that staff just needs to look into and get back to those two council members?
So I would follow along with just knowing more about our airport district. It is in the heart of our town. It is used, and it's used for a couple different reasons and purposes. So it'd be nice to know as a council a little bit more about it. As far as trash and that issue along the highway, we have gone down that path before, and staff has helped us with that about beautification of the entrances, and I think that would just be included in that same kind of structure. Just maybe look at 247 as another entrance.
Would there be any interest in the council on forming some kind of a ad hoc committee to interact with the airport, or is that something that's done at a later date?
I would think that would be at a later date.
Yeah, I'd like to get a report back on kind of a little bit more detail on the purpose and the structure of that airport district.
So if the council agrees and wants to have a future conversation, right now the town has no formal interaction with the Yucca Valley Airport as a special district. So what we would do is just kind of prepare a little primer on what the airport is, what the airport does, and then I think maybe an invitation for them to come and address the town council, I think would probably be appropriate. So we'd be happy to schedule that at some point in the future.
They could do it as a presentation, perhaps?
Yeah, you bet.
Would that be suffice? And then if there's future interest, then we can maybe bring it back?
And staff will reach out to the Yucca Valley Airport. I've not even had that interaction with anyone. Nobody's made that request. So we're happy to reach out and be proactive in that effort and kind of just start that process, start that conversation. Be happy to do that.
Okay, and then the other one was about a equal appearance as far as entering the town limits on the Old Woman Springs Road portion?
Yeah, just the trash, really. I mean, there's quite a bit of trash along the road. Getting some kind of a cleanup, or I don't know if it's the town's responsibility or Caltrans, or maybe BurTech could help.
I'm happy to follow up with you and understand what that is and come up with something.
All right, both great issues, so staff will follow up. Any other possible future agenda items? All right, we'll move on to public comments. Is there any member of the public online? Any public here in the audience wishing to speak? All right, then if it's all right with the legal counsel, I'll open it to public comments without the paragraph. Is anyone here wishing to speak? All right, hearing and seeing none, then we'll close public comment section. Staff reports and comments.
Deborah, I think you're going to give us an update on some of the recruitment activities, just so the council's aware of what we're doing.
Just to give you guys some information, we've been busy in human resources. We currently have 4 positions that we are currently recruiting for. So if you know of anyone that might be interested in working with us, please direct them to the website. And on the front page, there's a button there. It says employment, and that will connect them to our online application. So 2 of the positions are new, as mentioned in the budget, a planning technician and a parks position. And then the other 2 are replacements of engineering tech, as we know, just recently left us. And then we had another resignation up at the animal shelter, one of our hybrid positions, the animal shelter specialist / ACO 1. So also, too, we've just recently successfully filled 2 positions, skilled maintenance worker for one of our retiring employees, which you will be seeing next meeting, and also office assistant, who a long-term employee just recently left. So those 2 positions have been filled. So we're very excited about that. So
is it too early to start advertising for like lifeguards and those types of programs?
You just got ahead of me. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say in the coming weeks we are going to be posting the position for the lifeguards for the upcoming aquatics program. Yes. So, thank you.
Thank you. Captain Niles, Lieutenant Walker, you guys have anything for us today?
Thank you. Nothing spectacular to report, maybe fortunately, but I would just a couple comments. We closed out our winter months, moved into spring. It remained a pretty steady, high volume winter. We didn't see much downturn in calls for service this year. This probably due to the nature of visitation to our area. So our deputies have stayed pretty steady. But maybe one public service announcement on the back of our Caltrans presentation, and looking forward to the wonderful highway improvement project finally coming to our area. We have unfortunately seen an uptick in traffic accidents. So just to remind people, it's going to be busy on the highway for the next few years. A lot of pedestrians, state workers. It's really the time to be patient and to slow down and to be aware of our driving. So outside of that, we've been fortunate. We're not seeing any significant crime trends right now, which I'm very thankful for in our town. Just really safe driving is going to be our big theme, I think, for the next few years. That's all I have.
Thank you, Captain. Sue, I see you back there. I'm going to see if you can just give a quick update on the activity that we've experienced with Tri-Valley Little League. I think the council would find that pretty interesting.
Sure. Actually, I have a short update on the Community Services Department. So good evening, Mayor and Council. Just quickly, a few items. The museum is open by appointment Wednesday through Saturday, so we encourage everyone to make your reservation for a visit at highdesertnaturemuseum.org. We have a new exhibit over there. It's Salton Sea Stories. It's really terrific and shows sort of the Salton Sea in its heyday in the late 50s. A lot of great items on exhibit there. They're continuing with their Desert Lecture Collaborative with the next monthly lecture on May 13th that covers General Patton and the Desert Training Center. They are also, in lieu of an in-person youth summer camp, we have the museum discovery kits that families can sign up for on the website. And the first one is botany. Those discovery kits include projects and crafts and experiments and all sorts of fun stuff for families to do during the summer. The recreation department, actually we're experiencing launching of a new software while we're closed, which is really fortunate and so much easier than a normal software launch. We get to go through and resolve any issues and polish the new software. So that's an experience that we haven't had before, is being able to spend the time to really dial it in. So that's been really, really terrific. Our recreation newsletter goes out weekly, and we're continuing with our esports programs. Those are ongoing. Also, assisting with things like food distribution and, of course, the hazardous waste collection event this weekend, doing community service type programs like that. We are prepping for reopening, as Deborah mentioned. We will be recruiting for the aquatics program for this summer. We have a lifeguard certification course that will start at the beginning of May. Actually, it starts on the evening of April 30th, so the registration for that is open. We also are prepping for our summer programs, including the Grub Stakes Run. Aquatics registration will open June 7th. The pool will open June 21st. And we also hope to restart some of our enrichment classes and open our offices in May. Youth Commission programs remain underway with our other summer programs to be announced soon. We're also assisting local organizations in reopening. Like Curtis said, we are processing facility requests for outdoor activities. Tri-Valley Little League is accepting registration, and they were very happy to say that they've enrolled 260 participants, which is way more than they expected. So they're very pleased about everyone wanting to get out and play. Their practices started last night, but they are still taking enrollment as well. So their website is active and updated. We also have been contacted by soccer and Lobos football, who also plan to begin operations in the coming months. And the town has also, of course, been hosting facility use, including vaccination clinics, food distributions, and those types of activities. And we'll be coming to the town council soon with a little introduction of our summer programs. And also in early June, the Youth Commission will be presenting their term report. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Shane, do you have anything?
Just a couple items this evening, Mayor and Council. Community Development Public Works reopened to the public by appointment only beginning this week. And it's been rather interesting, and interesting to see how things have changed and people have adjusted to change. So Since closing right at the first of the year, we've had boxes, containers outside, people drop off plans, application, forms of payment. They leave, they go do other things, come back the next day, pick up their permits, those types of things. So this week we reopened, and people would stop in and they'd start putting their things in the baskets outside. We'd say, well, you can come on in. There's no one here right now, no scheduled appointments. And they say, no, we're good. We got used to this process. We drop off, we go to our trucks, we eat lunch, we make phone calls, we reply to emails, we go do other things. We know you're going to have it for us in X amount of time. We'll come back, we'll pick up our permit, we'll pick up our credit card then. We don't want to come inside. So it's been very, very interesting this week how COVID has changed the way some people do business. So anyway, just thought that was an interesting tidbit. Speaking of Caltrans and Highway 62, the council will recall that there was some damage to the town-constructed median islands on Highway 62. We went out, took some temporary actions to stop that damage from progressing and getting worse. We've had negotiations and conversations with Caltrans. They're going to have their contractor, do that work for us. So we'll be coming back to the council with probably a budget amendment and contract information on what those costs are going to be. We'll be writing a check to Caltrans. Caltrans will be including in that work with Mattich. There's approximately $1 million allocated out of the Measure Y, or proposed to be allocated out of Measure Y this year to road maintenance infrastructure. Council will recall there wasn't a whole lot of road maintenance planned over the next couple years in anticipation of phase 2 of the sewer project moving forward. Based upon the conversations that we've had between town staff and the water district, looks like that construction start date of the sewer project isn't on timelines of 2 to 3 years, closer to 4 years, based upon those conversations. So staff is putting together a road maintenance program to bring back to the council sometime this calendar year for work that would start in the winter, then next spring and next summer. Again, that wasn't originally anticipated, but we see quite an effort underway next year with road maintenance programs based upon the timing of phase 2 of the sewer project as we know it today. Concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of closing comments. I think as you saw your capital projects update today, we have quite a few things going on right now, a number of projects. So thanks to the entire team and the staff for doing a great job on getting these things moved through. And as a reminder to make sure that we listen to our staff, that last slide that you had in the budget presentation, I specifically asked to put it in. I probably shouldn't have. So I was like, Jordan, why don't you put that in? So. Anyways, all good. Things are moving forward in the right direction.
All right. Thank you for clarifying who put that slide in there. All right. Thank you for the staff reports and comments. We'll go ahead and go to mayor and council member reports and comments. Councilmember Dennison.
Well, thank you everyone for coming today, and I'm kind of happy that we're getting back to some normality, it seems like, a little bit in our community and the surrounding areas, and people getting out, getting more active. Seems to be a lot of pent-up excitement to go out and do things, and I'm starting to see that. And you'll see it in our town, getting to be a lot of traffic. Stores are congested. So once again, enjoy it while you can. Hopefully we continue our progress in healing as a world, actually. Thanks to Caltrans for updating us. I've been curious about this project for many years. It hasn't kicked off in a timely manner in the past, but it is started now, and I know equipment's in the area. Just as we get to the season where we're busy with traffic, Caltrans is going to go ahead and take care of that for us. So it might get a little congested out there. Be careful. Thank you, Chief Tuttle, for coming out and give us a little update on your crews out there and what they're doing for our community. I appreciate it. Morongo Basin Arch had a lot of good information. I think I, after that, have more questions than answers out of it, but it was appreciated. And thank you, Jordan, and with staff for the budget. I always like your conservative approach. The slide was really kind of icing on top of the cake, but I see that it's better to be like that, a little bit more conservative, and get that out in front of us. Thank you for your work. Appreciate it. That's all.
All right, very good. Councilmember Drodes.
All right, I don't have much. I just want to say thank you to everyone for all the great reports and the presentations. They were great. And I do want to mention that this Saturday at 2 p.m. at Joshua Springs is the memorial service for Ben Costello. It's open to the public. So if anybody wants to attend, it's a Saturday at 2 p.m. And that's about it. Everybody have a great 2 weeks.
Thank you. Councilmember Lombardo.
We should never let Councilmember Dennison
Oh,
start.
hold.
We should never let Councilman Dennison start the reports because he's always so thorough. He hits all the targets. So thanks again to all those presenters for the different presentations today. They were on time, targeted, and well understood. They were done well. And it's amazing me how many projects we have planned for the coming year. You've got your work cut out for you on engineering and getting those things all set up. Our town is really moving forward rapidly. We've done a good job of budgeting. Thank you. And want to wish Leslie a quick recovery. I heard that she was in a traffic accident recently, and Brooke, you're doing a great job stepping in. We got a really great staff, and it's so nice to see. Rose wrote a little thank you for money that was given to part-time employees as part of a COVID kind of relief and an appreciation of the extra work that had to get done, and some hours got cut, I guess, in some ways. And so she wrote a handwritten note. I mean, that's old school, but very well appreciated. And Rose, I'm not going to try to butcher your last name. So can you pronounce your last name for me?
That's Rose Feeney.
Feeney. Okay. Rose, thank you very much. That was very thoughtful. Thank you note. Just a great staff all around. Thank you to our police officers and our firemen for keeping us safe in this period of time. And we look forward to having a new fire station when you get that thing rolling, okay? Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Schooler.
Well, now there's really not much left to say, but but I agree with all of those comments, and the reports tonight were awesome. Particularly the budget review. This is such a painless process, and it's nice to have confidence that you guys know what you're doing, and well presented. And a year ago, when everything started shutting down, and I was among those who thought the sky was falling. For us to be in good financial shape now, I would have never predicted that. But thank you for all the work on monitoring that and keeping us solvent. And great news on the recreation programs opening up. I think that's a really good trend. And finally, I had occasion on Sunday to talk to some people who were concluding a week-long visit to the area here. They were from Northern California, and without prompting, they said, "You have an awesome museum. You just have a really exceptional museum." And they went on and on about it. So not sure. I mean, they did mention Stephanie as being very helpful to them. So unsolicited compliment. You might want to pass that along, Sue. And that concludes my comments.
All right. Thank you. I do appreciate the staff making all the necessary accommodations to allow the public to come into our lobbies. I appreciate that very much. I think that's really important for our public to be able to come to public agencies and be able to do business. So, and giving them an option too, not to come inside. So that's really great. So I also want to thank staff, how quickly they respond to graffiti on town property and signage and so forth. I have a question. Does town staff, as they're out and about, do they report to you any graffiti that's not on town property that they might see?
So any graffiti that gets reported, gets documented, photographs taken, there's coordination with the appropriate personnel at the sheriff's office in terms of potential gang activities or recognizable activities. So it's very, very common.
So staff can, I mean, a staff member that's working a park can see graffiti on their way and they could let you know?
Absolutely.
All right, wonderful. And also, it's great to see that we're going to have recreation programs coming out. I see the excitement with our students at the high school where they actually get to come out and cheer practice. They get to do the track runs. They get to do all the different tennis activities. By the way, Yucca Valley boys tennis is undefeated and moving in that direction. So it's great to see our recreation programs returning. And it's also nice not to have to travel out of state to compete in a running event. So I'm planning on being at the Grub Stakes and running. So if you want to run and beat up the mayor on the track, on the course, you can sign up and do so. With that, there's nothing else tonight. We'll move on to our upcoming meeting schedule, which is our next regular meeting for the town council will be held on Tuesday, May 4th. Oh, before we leave, we had a promotion here recently. Would you tell us a little bit about that before I close?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that, Mayor. We had started the process about a year and a half ago to build up bench strength, and one of those areas that we needed to do that was with our town clerk and deputy town clerk functions. And so we were looking for internal staff that was interested in going down that path. And so after reviewing that with the management team, it was identified that Brooke Verhonik was interested in doing that and adding that to her already full plate over at community development. And so I think partially, probably a few things, probably COVID happened and in the fall of last year that never really moved forward anywhere. And then with Leslie's absence, that was highlighted again of our need to ensure that we had a deputy town clerk. And so we moved that process forward, and effective this month, I think, this month, Brooke became our deputy town clerk and was promoted from an admin 2 to admin 3. So congratulations to her, and I know Mary swore her in, and we're thrilled to have the added bench strength, and she's doing a terrific job.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that as well. Deputy Clerk, you've done a fantastic job. Appreciate it. Our next regular meeting for the Town Council will be held on Tuesday, May 4th, 2021, at 6 p.m. right here at the Yucca Valley Community Center room. Have a good night, drive home safely, and God bless.